Welcome to this lecture on why responsible research and innovation, shortly RRI. Let me first introduce myself. I'm René van Schomburg. I work as a senior research fellow at the University of Aachen at the International Center for Advanced Studies on Cultures of Research. So I thank you very much for your interest, and I will immediately start with this short introduction on responsible research and innovation. Now, what we will do just in the framework of this short video are 5 essential points. One is just the question why we actually want to have responsible research and innovation. And this will be elaborated on issues of open science, open scholarships, addressing market failures, value-driven research and innovation, and conclusively anticipatory governance. Okay, why responsible research and innovation? A lot of people would say research and innovation is by definition responsible. I believe this is not the case. We have currently a research and innovation system globally which lacks particular deficits. And the first deficit I want to highlight is that we actually don't have governance mechanisms for what we want to get out of science, technology, and innovation. We have a lot of governance mechanisms concerning the safety or efficacy or the quality of products which results from technologies on the market. So in other words, we define the conditions under which technologies can be acceptable to be marketed, but we don't give it any direction. So this is the challenge of responsible research and innovation, to give a direction to research and innovation. What this entails is, as a condition, is that we have to move towards a more open science system in order to make science more responsive to societal demands, and by making it also more efficient and making data and the use of information more reproducible. We also have to address the issue of market failures. We see that our markets don't actually deliver on what people socially want to get out of research and innovation. In other words, we have to address the market failures in order to deliver on those. We also would need to align science and technology with broadly shared values. This seems to be an obvious subject matter, but in fact all our policies which are guided by shared values, we have actually one exception, and that is research and innovation policy. There it seems that this is only a goal in itself. It doesn't matter what type of products we produce as long as we innovate. And this is a serious deficit of our system. Finally, I want to address the issue of anticipatory governance. Let me start with identifying 2 major crises we have in science, which gives us a bridge for the demand for a more open system of science. First, we have the issue of reproducibility in science. A lot of data which are underlying particular articles of scientific journals cannot be reproduced by the colleagues. In fact, 70% of the colleagues interviewed by the journal Nature could not reproduce the data of their colleagues. In another article called Science Goes Wrong, which was a lead article of The Economist, it was stated that 90% of our second stage clinical trials fail. So this is very serious. It takes a long time before products, for example a vaccine like COVID, can go to a clinical trial. But if they fail at this point, we lose, of course, a lot of time and efforts. The other issue I want to point to is that we apparently have also a productivity crisis in science. That means, what actually our system produces. This is illustrated by, for example, that the number of drugs approved by the US Food and Drug Administration in America, that since the 1950s, every 9 years, we have more or less to double our expenditure on research and innovation to get the same thing out of the system. So this is already going on for many decades. So in other words, we have to invest more and more in science in order to get something out of it. Now, these two crises are not necessarily all related to my demand of making science more open, but it's a general accepted fact that science at the moment is too competitive and too closed. And we recently saw it with the COVID crisis. By making science more open, we can deliver on societal desirable objectives, for example, a COVID vaccine, much faster than we otherwise would do. COVID vaccine appeared in 1 year time. Normally it takes 10 to 15 years under the current competitive and closeness of science. So in other words, we have to open up science more, and this sounds very, very simple. The rationale of open science is in fact sharing knowledge and data as early as possible in the research process in open collaboration with all relevant knowledge actors. So from this short definition, we can see the following implication. It means we have to get open to knowledge sources. That means publications, data, information sources, which has to be opened up, but also openness to other actors. So we have to become more collaborative in nature and collaborative beyond the academic realm, even collaborate with citizens to give innovation a drive in the direction society would like it to see. So this is a very short graph on that open science actually affects every element of the research cycle, starting with setting of a research agenda. And this research agenda setting is preferably done with a broad set of stakeholders in order to give science a drive towards societal desirable ends. So in fact, open science is a sort of condition for responsible research and innovation, but not yet a sufficient one. Now, why it's not sufficient? Because we have not only to deal with the scientific system which is in crisis, we also have to address market failures. In fact, when it comes to innovations, it seems to us that we are more subject to change rather than we are agents of change. We seem to be lacking the power to give our innovation the direction we want to give it. We have left it up to the market, and sometimes the markets are efficient, but when it comes to transformative changes, which we currently need in the light of climate change, major food security issues, etc., it doesn't deliver. Now, responsible research and innovation constitutes, in fact, a new paradigm for research and innovation, which mobilizes a collective co-responsibility as a driving force for societal desirable outcomes of innovation and research. In other words, to give research and innovation a direction, and possibly also giving the technologies characteristics we want. So it's a quite demanding objective. Now, in order to address these market failures, we can have a set of measures to do so. A major element is that we have to involve stakeholders in the research process, but not just involve them, but have them committed towards a particular objective, a particular outcome. For example, under the current Green Deal, we have at the European Union to go to a fossil-free economy by 2050. All kinds of other elements are necessary to help this or to address this market deficit. This can be done by non-legislative options, codes of conduct, certification of products, new innovation standards, new public-private partnerships, and so on. Now I come to the issue that we have to make research and innovation value-driven. It is interesting to know that all our EU policies actually are policies by particular values. The values you see here on this screen are actually from the European Treaty. Major functions you probably all know: sustainable development, competitive social market economy, quality of life issues, issues of justice and solidarity, gender issues. All these values we share as Europeans, and we drive our policies with it. There is only one exception, and that's the research and innovation policy. And there we see in the treaty, in fact, that the promotion of scientific and technological advance is an objective in itself. This, of course, has a history in terms that we think by making it an objective of itself, that innovation in itself delivers economic benefits, major global economic benefits from which everybody can have its share. And it does not matter, apparently, what type of innovation we produce, because any innovation can be translated in economic benefits. Now, this may be a model which has been successful for a long time, but I think RRI stands for a new innovation paradigm to select particular innovation which actually society wants and actually also what the market doesn't deliver. Now, I give you two examples in which you can actually see that innovation in a certain sense is always value-driven. And what you see here are Robert Moses low bridges which were built in the 1930s in the area of New York. These bridges are very low and buses, public buses, could not go below it and could not reach the coast. And this was actually a means to prevent that American black people who were relying on these buses could not hit the coast. So in other words, these bridges were from racist design explicitly. Now another example, and this is an example from the Netherlands. It's called the Eastern Shell Storm Surge Barrier. It's around a 10-kilometer long dike, and this was built in the light of major disasters the Netherlands has faced traditionally with flooding. And what you see here on the left side is the North Sea. On the right side is actually the inner lakes of the peninsula of southwest Netherlands. And if for protection of the coast, if you would make a closed dike, this would have an impact on agriculture, on tourism, on fishing, etc., because the water would not be salt anymore. The Dutch have decided for that reason, in consensus with all these interest groups, so farmers, tourist industry, fisheries, nature protectionists, that we should make a barrier which can be opened. And in fact, you see a range of barriers which can be opened, and in fact, it's always open only under the condition of serious weather circumstances. So in other words, you see that a consensus among interest groups, among stakeholders, and particular values of nature protection and employment for farmers and so on are reflected in the design. So this is interesting and important to regain, that in the design of products like bridges, we implement our values. And this is increasingly also the case in the engineering sciences, and science itself becomes ever more an engineering perspective. We can make things. In nanotechnology, we even have now the realistic dream that we can make new materials. We can build our stuff the way we want. And that means that in our design, we have to take responsibility on how to construct things. So this brings us me to the last point of RRI, and that is the case of anticipatory governance. And I think there's one major mechanism in order to anticipate a future in which we have outcomes of research and innovation which are socially desirable. In other words, in line with our RRI objective. And this is mission-oriented research towards social challenges, the major challenges such as climate change, food security, and so on. And these missions currently at the European level are being co-designed and co-created by stakeholders and done in an open fashion. So in other words, as an open science rationale. Furthermore, the stakeholders have a commitment to those societal objectives. They are not simply just involved, but they also have a shared objective to reach a particular outcome. Furthermore, we have to implement these missions with foresight, because the state of science can change over time, as well as the societal acceptance of particular issues. So while we do this research, we can also readjust our research to directions which in the meantime people have changed their mind on. Finally, also citizen science becomes important and citizen engagement. In those missions, citizens will be massively involved and listened to in order to make research and innovation directional. So finally, of course, the outcomes of these missions have to go back to public policies, including research and innovation policy, to start a new cycle of anticipatory governance. So I conclude here my lecture. I hope you have had a short introduction to the main elements of RRI. I just conclude with some references how RRI currently has been implemented or is being implemented. RRI is a strategic objective under the current framework program of the EU. It has also been funded by national research councils. Even China has put it into the science and innovation and technology major policy framework of the last 5 years. So it also has resonated internationally. If you want to learn more about responsible research and innovation, ethics or open science, you can download freely resources at my website, which is listed here. And I conclude my lecture for this short intro on RRI, and I hope you have enjoyed it. And I look forward to hear from you.